Welcome back to the Motorhome Matt podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
And this whole shebang, the whole thing, the podcast in its entirety is brought to you thanks to our friends at thatleisureshop.com.
How are you doing anyway?
I'm doing fine, and how are you?
Yeah, feeling very recharged.
Oh, yeah, I'm feeling full of juice as well.
You're full of something.
Yeah, today we're talking about lithium batteries. What are they, and why do you need one?
Yeah, it's the big question, isn't it? Is it just a case of keeping up with the Joneses? Is it something you need to have? Do you have to have one?
I feel electricity in the air. We're going to dive straight in. No news, no nothing.
Let's power on.
A big subject. So firstly, Matt, what is a lithium battery?
Well, is it lithium ion or is it lithium iron?
Is it ion or iron? Iron or iron?
So a lithium iron
Iron.
battery. Iron. Proper. That's a pirate battery. So a lithium ion battery is actually a type of lithium ion battery. So in a mobile phone, you always tell me off for saying my iPhone. There are other types of mobile phones.
Many other mobile phones.
They contain a lithium ion battery, whereas a larger battery, like we use in a motorhome or caravan that we're going to talk about today, is a lithium ion battery.
You mean iron?
Iron. Lithium ferrophosphate.
Really?
They're called LFP batteries, and that's why they're called that.
The chemical name for that, you know, is Life PO4.
LIFEPO4.
I knew that. It's not written down here.
That's what it says here. Lithium ferrophosphate. There we are.
Yeah. Now we've told people that. Why should they care?
Well, they've become certainly very commonplace in motorhomes and caravans where you have inverters that mean you can use mains-powered appliances when you're on the move.
So what's an inverter again?
So that converts the 12 volt of the battery up to 240 volt or 110 volt if you're in the US or somewhere else where 110 volts is the norm, and it basically steps up the voltage so you can use that laptop power supply or hairdryer. I've seen you're a keen user of a hairdryer.
Yes, I blew it right off. I use it. I'm going to mention it again. My solar panels at home.
Oh, here we go.
I've got an inverter in the garage, and it inverts the 4,000 watts that I generate on a sunny day to 240 volts AC that the house can use.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what an inverter will do. It converts power from one state to another, from one level to another.
DC to AC.
It will do that as well, which is exactly what the inverter is designed to do, yeah. Now, of course, if you put an inverter on a lead-acid battery, which is known as a wet battery, so we've had those in caravans, motorhomes for years, so a normal wet lead-acid in a caravan
So that's like the battery in your car?
That's a different type of battery. That's a starter battery. So a starter battery is designed to a huge amount of charge in a very short space of time to start the engine. A leisure battery is designed for a gradual drain over time. So it's a different type of battery. And there are various types. There's general wet lead acid, EFP and AGM. We talk about those in another episode. We'll come to that in another episode. But the big difference with a lithium ion, totally different technology. They weigh a lot less than a lead acid battery. They're a lot more expensive. They don't require any maintenance, and they have a much longer lifespan. So a lithium ion battery will probably outlive the time you own the motorhome. So it probably lasts you 20 years plus. It will have a much greater level of recharge and cycle rate. So it will go flat 20,000 times and you can recharge it before it's a problem. With a traditional lead acid battery, you let it go flat below 12 volts and your battery's had it and you're probably going to have to replace it. So sometimes they only last, months sometimes, but usually a battery has a warranty of about 2 years because that's a typical lifespan of a lead acid battery.
So lithium-ion batteries, they last longer, they've got more recharge cycles on them, and they're newer technology. I'm going to mention my solar panels at home one more time. I have 2 lithium-ion batteries, which stores electricity that we don't use during the day, and then discharges it for use in the evening when the sun has gone down. They're guaranteed for 10 years. As you say, with standard batteries, lead-acid batteries, they run out of puff after a very short amount of time.
And the big difference is that the drain curve is a very different shape. So on a lead acid battery, it's kind of a diagonal shape down, and it will go down from 12.7 volts, which is fully charged, down to 12 volts and then below. And really, once it gets below 12 volts, it's flat. Okay, 12 volts is it. And if it gets below 8 volts, it's going to be very hard to bring back. A lithium ion battery drain curve is pretty flat and very constant, and then suddenly will drop. And that's the difference. And you can run a lithium down to 6 volts and it will recover very easily. The other big difference is the recharge rate. So you can recharge a lithium ion battery very quickly at a very high rate, whereas a lead acid, it's a much slower recharge.
Very much 21st century technology. But why the hell do I need one?
Well, that's the question. So people think, well, I need to get one. It's the latest technology. Do you really? So there are a number of downsides to lithium. I've mentioned the costs, and they're a big investment. The batteries themselves are about £700. It used to be the case, and it's changing now. In the last few weeks, there's been some advances in the technology where the batteries just wouldn't recharge at very low temperatures. So we've had snow as we've been recording this recently, and at 0 degrees, the batteries just won't recharge. That's changing. Technology is improving, and you have to have the correct charging system as well. So can you just swap one out for your lead acid for a lithium? Possibly, but you need to make sure that the charging system is correct. Now, the way lithium ion works is a 12-volt battery is actually made up of 4 cells, and each of them are 3.2 volts. So this is the case for your solar system at home. You join 4 of them together in series, so they're added together, and you end up with a 12.8 volt output. That's how a lithium ion battery works. But the recharge voltage must be between 14 volts and 14.6. If it's any different, you could damage the battery and you could easily overcharge it, and you could damage the system that's utilizing it as well. Electric cars, most of them are using lithium ion technology because of the weight and because their reliability. Although that said, we had a car crash outside of work recently, and it was an electric BMW, and it was just incredible what the fire brigade had to go through because of risk of the battery overheating. This car had been clipped on the back end. There was no damage to the car at all, really, but because it was all electric, the protocol the fire brigade had to go through, we talked about this before, didn't we, was just incredible. Lithium can react very violently with moisture, water or steam, and it can produce heat, and it's flammable, and it produces a very explosive hydrogen gas and a toxic lithium hydroxide.
So you give me all the reasons why I shouldn't have one. Now give me one good reason why I should. So what about China? Let's face it, they have been pushing and pulling on the international stage, and that's where all the lithium comes from, isn't it?
Well, a lot of lithium does come from China, and they are way ahead in terms of the production of it. But did you know, with the most reserves of lithium in the world is Chile?
No, I didn't know that.
There we are, you see. They got 8 million tonnes. China has about 1 million.
Oh.
Yeah, and in fact, after Chile is Australia with 2.7 million tonnes. And then Argentina with 2 million tonnes. So China are not the most affluent with lithium at all.
No, that's not easy to say, is it? But they're the ones getting out of the ground, aren't they?
They are, and that's the point. They've got ahead quickly with it, whereas the other countries have not really had to, but they are starting to. So I think we'll see a shift of where lithium is coming from. And there is a sense of nervousness, isn't there, from many? Well, it all comes from China. Do you really want to give more control to China? I don't think we will.
But the thing is, whenever you're mining these raw materials out of the earth, a lot of people do care now about the environment and about the way we treat the earth, don't they? And mining is never pretty. So
no. And it's not harmless to the environment at all, that's fair. It's way less harmful than mining fossil fuel, certainly. It does pollute water. Because when you're mining, you need to use a lot of water. And so that's a side effect of this. And any mining, as you say, is going to impact the environment as we do consuming any type of power.
So given all that, taking all that into consideration, why do I need one?
Well, your neighbours have got one.
Is that a good enough reason?
The Joneses have got one up the road in their motorhome. Surely that's a reason to have one. The reason people have them is, I think, there is an element of, well, I must have it. It's the latest thing. If you're using a laptop on your travels, that's a really good reason to have them. I love coffee, and that's a great reason to have one. It means you can power your coffee machine, and you can power all of your 240-volt appliances off the battery really easily. So that's a great reason to have one. But actually, we visited our friends at Bristol Caravans, and I spoke to Oakleigh, and they've won Best Workshop in the UK under the NCC Approved Workshop Scheme. And I gave Oakleigh a real-world example. So I'm going to a campsite. I arrive with the kids.
Yes.
We've driven for an hour.
Yes.
We hook up and we stay on the campsite for 24 hours. We unplug. We go for a drive. We go home, and I can hook up on the drive at home, and I can recharge the van at home. Why do I need a lithium-ion battery?
You don't. Let's forget this. Let's go and talk about something else. Oh, no, seriously. Why would you?
Is it the case that I don't need one because I'm constantly recharging it with the engine and the hookup, and I'm not spending any great amount of time off-grid?
If you're hooked up, I would question why you would be going down this route. Because
so what if I go away, then I'm away on my campsite, but there is no hookup. I'm there for a couple of days.
You're off-grid then.
I'm off-grid. But I'm not a digital nomad. I'm left the laptop at home. I'm not allowed to take it away on holiday. She'll tell me off. So, but I've got the lights on. I'm running the water pump. I've got the heating on in my caravan.
Okay.
Do I need a lithium-ion battery?
Hesitation. It would really depend on how much electricity you're using while you're away and what you're using. If you're going to be using a hairdryer and things of that nature, so again, they're not everyday, they're not the heavy use laptop, but they're everyday items, then in that case you will probably be wanting to fit an inverter. And if you're fitting the inverter, an inverter is really well aligned to a lithium battery because you're going to get that supply of power all the way through. That lithium battery can give you a very high amps output that will feed that inverter.
Right.
And therefore you're going to get all of the facilities you want when you're off-grid.
So the answer then is if I want to be able to use appliances while I'm off-grid,
yes.
So I go to a campsite and there are no hookups left, but I want to use the hairdryer, I want to watch the TV, I want to use those 3-pin plugs, I can use an inverter on a lithium ion. If I do that on an AGM or EFB, a traditional leisure battery, that's going to drain it and flatten it pretty quickly, isn't it?
It is.
So this is where lithium ion comes into its own, is that right?
It is. That's a good summary, yes.
Yeah. Brilliant, right. So we think that's an option for us. What do I need to consider then? So I've got a 4-year-old Adria Twin is our motorhome, and it's a van conversion for those that don't know. And can I just take the battery out and put a new one in, put my lithium ion in? Spend 760 quid with you and bosh it straight in the hole?
Adria Twin, it's going to be a challenge because you're now talking about space and where you're going to put it. Okay. So we'd have to see if there's enough space under the driver's seat on a Twin to fit that lithium battery. If there is, then potentially yes, but I say potentially because you really need to understand or do some research what's in the vehicle and will it work with a lithium. So is the 230 volt mains charger that has been fitted by, in this case, Adria, has it got a function to work with lithium? And that would be the same process of thought on whatever the brand is. You need to get the manual out, read the manual. Is there lithium functionality within the vehicle? If there is, great. Then it could be as simple as fitting a battery. But if there's not, then I think you'd need to work through what the system is that you want to produce. Does that make sense?
Sort of, yeah. Okay. So for the layman watching this or listening to this, what we're saying is you need to get the manual for your control unit, the charger unit that's been installed by the leisure vehicle manufacturer. This is the important bit, isn't it? Either go and dig it out of that bag that you never look in, that came with the vehicle, or go online and find it and do your research and find the tech spec of that charger. And then, though, even then, give it to the expert installer to make the real decision as to whether it's compatible. Can you do damage to a charger if you don't do this and just fit a lithium ion and you can plug it in and see what happens?
You can damage the system. The system could be damaged. Which component I can't say because there's so many different systems. You could damage the lithium battery, you could damage the control system. yes, there could be damage.
That's Oakleigh from Bristol Caravans. You talked to him just a little while back about this whole battery thing. I'm getting a bit confused by it all, but we can straighten it out a little bit later on, Matt. Don't worry, because I want me lithium-ion battery.
You do?
Well, because my neighbour's got one. What's a BMS?
It's a battery management system. So a lithium-ion battery looks very different to the normal lead-acid leisure battery that you've seen in a motorhome or caravan. It's got lights on the top, and it's actually got Bluetooth transmitter on it, so you can send the information of what's going on in that battery to your phone and download an app and monitor what's going on in that battery. You can turn the battery on and off. The connections on the top are very different as well. So they are an entirely different technology to the lead-acid type that we're used to seeing.
So what does this technology cost me? What does a lithium-ion battery cost?
Well, as you heard there, so £700-800 for the battery, and no doubt prices will come down, I'm sure they will, versus the £100 to £200 of a normal leisure battery. But I asked Oakleigh about the other costs associated with installation.
I turn up to you and I want a solar panel, a solar controller that's lithium-ion compatible, a lithium-ion battery. I need a new charger because my caravan's not compatible. I need a B2B charger so I can charge it when I'm driving. I want an inverter so I can run my computer. What is this all going to cost typically? What kind of budget do people need to consider? I know there are so many variables,
Yes.
but you've already said the batteries themselves are £700 plus.
Yes.
What about everything else?
So I think today, February 2023, we're probably in the region of £6,500-ish, and that's a variable, but that will give you a feel for budget. If you need everything, you might not need everything. You might not need all of the items, but that's a ballpark figure.
So I've got a flat lead acid battery, £6,500 to go lithium ion, or 150 quid for a new lead acid battery. It's a big difference, isn't it?
It's huge. The question is, what do you want to do with your vehicle? What's your plan using your vehicle going forward? How long are you going to keep your vehicle?
Well, yeah.
And
what if I'm only keeping it for a year because that new one is delayed again? So I've bought a second-hand one. I want to put this in it. Can I take it out?
Absolutely. So our approach is we fit aftermarket items. These are after the manufacturer has built the vehicle, but we fit them in a way that you can then take them out again and then put it back to as spec by the vehicle manufacturer.
Right, so it's all transferable to my new vehicle.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do you think we're going to see manufacturers fitting lithium-ion systems like this in the factory from new?
I don't know. Some of the manufacturers are already fitting battery chargers that are compatible with lithium ion, so they're sort of halfway there. The spec that I'm seeing is quite a low spec, so this mains charger could be 20 amps, could be 80 amps. The difference in price is £260 to £1,000. So it will depend on if the customer is willing to pay for that level of upgrade at that purchase point, or if it's an option, or if the dealer has got the skill in-house to do that for them.
Yeah. I think part of the problem is the customer and the consumer's understanding of what this technology is and why you need it and when you don't need it. As we say, 90% of people don't need it, do they?
No. If you're yes, as the things we've said earlier, if you don't need it, why spend your money on this? You could have something else that might be more fun for your vehicle, and you could have adventures in a different way.
Yeah, quite. Now you've kindly brought a vehicle back into the workshop which you've been busy working on, and you've installed a whole system like this. Yeah. And you've said we can go and have a look at it. Can we do that?
Yep, please do. Come on in.
So that's Oakleigh at Bristol Caravans again. So, Matt, what are the main takeaways from this?
I think the interesting bit is you start to become very aware of what power you're using. We happily just plug in, don't we, to the mains. So in a motorhome caravan, we hook up and we've got electric. We don't give it any thought at all. But when you're running off a battery, you can monitor with a lithium-ion system certainly how long you've got left. And I think it starts to focus the mind on how much power we're consuming and how much power we've got left, which has to be a good thing, surely.
Yeah, and also with the new lithium-ion technology, it frees you a little bit, doesn't it?
It does,
You
yeah.
are much more independent when it comes to power.
We use the phrase digital nomad. So increasingly people want to be mobile, working in a van, in a remote location, not hooked up to the grid, and you can be off-grid on a lithium-ion battery. That does give you a sense of freedom. The other thing is the focus on solar. Now, you're passionate about your solar panels. Solar is undoubtedly, I think, part of the future of this in terms of recharging the batteries and keeping them topped up. Solar is going to be a very important factor because, after all, a wind turbine on your roof would look daft, wouldn't it?
And even in this country, sunshine is free.
Is it?
So what's the future?
I think solar is going to play a big part in partnership with lithium-ion. The price is undoubtedly going to come down. And Oakleigh had this to add as well.
We're on a journey. This is where we are at the moment, but I agree. I think long term we're going to be seeing more solar, however that looks, and then that will be recharging your batteries so you can live off grid.
So there we are, really. I mean, the question is, do you need one? I think that's a really important question to start with.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because it's the old thing between practicality and desire. Do you need one, or do you want one?
Well, that's it. Yeah. It's the keeping up with the Joneses, isn't it? And there are some really sensible questions to ask of how are you going to use this vehicle. There is a case to say it's incredibly, it's a high investment. I was going to say expensive. It's a big investment to shell out to install a lithium-ion system with a solar panel and a shunt and a monitor and all the kit and caboodle that goes with it. It's a big consideration. But of course, you can take it off and take it with you, and it's going to last 20 years until the technology obviously moves up again. But it's a big consideration. If you think I'm going to do this for a long time and I want to be off grid, I want to use my laptop because laptops consume such a lot of power, and I want to use the hairdryer, the coffee machine, or whatever the gadget is, then it might be something that you could consider investing in.
And if you do keep it in the motorhome, is it going to get you a return when you resell?
I think it will do, yeah. You'll never get your money back, I wouldn't have thought. Accessories like this make the motorhome or caravan more desirable to the next one. But I think most people would just, deinstall it and take it off and put it on the next one. I think if you've committed into using it because that's the lifestyle you have, you'll want to take it with you rather than buy new.
So there you are. We hope that we have enlightened you somewhat about lithium-ion batteries. You heard the costs there. You've just got to decide whether your way of motorhoming or caravanning is the way to go, when you're using the batteries. Are you going to stick with the old technology or go with the new technology?
Yeah, that's
what
right.
do you want to do? Independence is the big one, but cost, well, it did seem rather pricey.
It is, but go and check out the YouTube channel where you can see the whole episode with Oakleigh, and we actually look at an installation and his demo unit in their reception area, which does explain it very visually, and it's fascinating to see how they've installed it. A huge amount of work goes into installing this, and it's definitely worth going and checking that out if you want to deep dive on this a bit more.
Fabulous. Okay, then let's get into our audience Q&A. I love this bit where we get to talk to you. Julie Needham got in touch.
Hello, Matt. We were at the NEC yesterday and was just about to buy a Warwick Duo, but we discovered that it has LE tanks that are underneath. Now, we did a little bit of investigating because we don't know anything about this to discover that there might be a problem with filling these tanks in the future. I just wanted to know what your view on that was. Thank you.
So this brand new motorhome has got LPG tanks installed instead of refillable gas bottles like Cala bottles. That's what's happened. And this is quite common on this particular range of campervan or van conversion. Julie's right to have a concern about the refill points because auto gas points are slowly disappearing in the UK. Fuel stations are no longer really using them. The days of converting a big V8 petrol car to gas have gone, haven't they? So people aren't running their cars on gas like they used to. So they are decreasing in number, that's true. However, a number of motorhome businesses are responding to this and are installing gas refill points. I would suggest a good idea would be to download the app mylpg.eu. That's the website to go to get it. It's on the App Store as well, and on Google Play, and install that on your phone or go on your computer, and you'll find all the dispensing points close to you across Europe. I checked it recently, and there are a number close to here, and they're all on there. And as they open or close, this is updated. So it's a really handy resource to find where you can refill, and perhaps do that before you made the purchase. Uninstalling that and changing it is going to be very, very difficult, because there's probably no provision on the van for a removable gas bottle like you would normally see to get a Cala bottle, for example.
Okay, Julie, well, thanks for that. I hope Matt helped you with that one. Jay's in Bournemouth and says, hello, we rented a motorhome last year, sleep 6. We wild parked overnight, and the next day we opened the internal windscreen blinds, expecting to have a stunning view of Luskentyre Beach, but instead just heavy condensation. Mm-hmm. How can this be avoided, please? I mean, it is 6 people in a very small space.
Well, that's part of the problem. So it's incredible how much water we generate when we breathe. Was it 20 litres? In an hour or something? It's incredible, and that is part of the issue you had. So ventilation's going to help. Depending on the time of year, that may or may not be possible. The silver screens that go on the inside and the outside of the motorhome are also really going to help. I'm guessing the window they refer to is the windscreen, which is the coldest part of any motorhome. So you've got all this warmth and moisture inside hitting the cold surface of the windscreen. It generates condensation, and so that's why.
Are there any little vents that can be opened or closed?
Opening the vents in the cab will help. Opening a roof light, opening a side window, just crack it open and lock it closed so it can't be opened.
Literally half a centimetre down.
Yeah, just crack them open onto the vent position, and will just allow the vehicle to breathe. Having the heating in winter, having the heating on as well generates even more condensation. So it's a really common problem, and you end up spending the first 10 minutes of any morning wiping the windscreen down with a towel, or using one of those little Karcher sucker things, like a window cleaner, and that sucks the water off the windscreen.
Other manufacturers also make them.
Well, I use a Karcher one. Yeah. I haven't seen any other man. I'm sure they do exist.
They do. They absolutely do exist. And not to mention the amount of carbon dioxide you're rebreathing with 6 people in that small area.
Well, that's it. So ventilating it is really key. The silver screens help insulate the windscreen and keep it away from the cold, as it were, and that really does help minimise the condensation on the windscreen.
Fantastic. Now, this episode has been quite technical with a lot of information, and we can't put everything in the audio podcast. But so what we've done for you is that interview with Oakleigh from Bristol Caravans is on YouTube, and you can see the whole thing. And as Matt said earlier, he takes a tour around an installation. So if you're weighing up whether you do or you don't want lithium ion in your motorhome or caravan, give that a view. But apart from YouTube and you subscribing the ding ding little bell there,
hit subscribe, make sure you do, then we can tell you when there's a new episode out. You can go to the website motorhomematt.co.uk, and if you've got a question, you can ask it. Just go /ask Matt, record your question with the orange button, or fill out the form. If you do record it, tell us where you are in the country. We love to hear your voice, and we love to know where you are, don't we? It's really cool. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, if you can, leave us a 5-star review. It really helps spread the word of the podcast, and it makes Keith feel all warm and fuzzy.